Hello and welcome to the old Fliers. A video I posted called Wright Brothers versus Glenn Curtis attracted a comment from Steve Langstroth that is worth responding to. The gist of my story was that the Wright Brothers patents stifled innovation in aviation. Their patent had been issued on May 22, 1906, embodying wing warping as a means of control in the longitudinal axis. A challenge to this monopoly came in the form of Glenn Curtis and his patent in 1911, which shows lateral control by means of the invention of ailerons. It is this point that my correspondent disputed. He said, "Forgotten facts. An Englishman, Matthew Boulton, invented the aileron in 1868. What? Yes, 1868, 35 years before the Wright brothers' flight in 1903, exclamation marks. Let us go back to that earlier video. Imagine you were the first to invent something never before seen on Earth. You dream of making lots of money to reward yourself for your efforts. The first thing you'd want to do is to patent the design to protect yourself. The Wright brothers were the first to fly a powered and controlled aircraft, and that happened in December 1903. Others had designed gliders that were stable in flight, but the Wrights realised that in order to control an aircraft, it is necessary to design it to be unstable. In other words, to make it reactive, just as birds react in their flight. Their patent was issued May 22, 1906. 2.5 anxious years later, the Wright patent covered a 3-axis control system for aeroplanes. Rolling control was effected with wing warping.
Our first big breakthrough was on the control of roll.
Our idea of twisting these wings, this wing warping as we call it, was really the system that evolved on how to turn an airplane in the air.
Yeah, our idea was to make the wings flexible, like we have right here. We would truss it with wire in the center, so the center would be rather rigid. But on the outer section, near the wingtips, we wouldn't put in any cross bracing so they could move like this. Now when the wings move, let's say we were going to make a left turn. I'll twist the wing and bring the right wingtip up and the left wingtip down.
So that increases the angle of attack here, and this wingtip experiences more lift and goes up. Decrease the angle of attack here, this wingtip experiences less lift and goes down.
Right. The important point here is that we've got different lift on different parts of the wing and causes it to roll to the side.
Enter Glenn Curtis, also a bicycle shop owner. What is it with these bicycle shops? He was also a builder of engines for motorcycles and airships. In 1907, he was asked by Alexander Graham Bell, yes, that's the one, to join him at the Aerial Experimental Association to build flying machines. In 1908, he flies his first powered aircraft fitted with ailerons, which he patents in 1911. The Wrights may have invented the aeroplane, but Glenn Curtis was turning it into an industry. Scientific American offered a $1,000 prize for the best aeroplane in July 1908. The Wrights didn't accept the invitation, and Curtis flies without any opposition in his newly designed June bug, attaining 37 miles per hour and winning the prize. He achieved more for aviation in one day than the Wrights achieved in the past 5 years. In August 1909, the Wrights sue Curtis, stating that any aircraft built owes its designs to them. Henry Ford then stepped in. He wanted to build aeroplanes and supported Curtis to fight the Wrights. Ford's legal team's strategy was that they should make small changes, incremental changes to the design, so that each change brought about a new suit from the Wrights. This was designed to exhaust and defeat them. The Smithsonian Institution sided with Curtis, exaggerating inventor Samuel Langley's contribution to aeronautics while belittling the Wrights. Their actions are considered dishonourable. The Wrights were so consumed by the legal fights that they neglected research and US aviation was stagnating compared to that in Europe. Wilbur dies a young man in 1912. Orville wins the court battle in January 1914 as the Wrights are declared pioneers of flight, and every aircraft built in America attracts a 20% royalty paid to them. There was just one man Orville Wright wouldn't grant a license to. Guess who? Yep, Glenn Curtiss. Just 6 months later, World War I erupts. In Germany, they build 50,000 aircraft in those war years to fight. In America, because of the Wright patent, the aviation industry has come to a standstill. The US enters World War I in 1917, and the government forces the Wright patents to be shared with all manufacturers, with both Curtiss and the Wright Company to get 1% royalty from all US-built aircraft. Curtiss builds 7,000 fighters for the war. Orville builds none. Incidentally, the last aircraft to be built with wing warping was the German Fokker-Eindecker in 1916. Long after Glenn Curtiss and Orville Wright die, their two companies merge to form Curtiss-Wright. Wikipedia says a much earlier aileron concept was patented in 1868 by British scientist Matthew Piers Boulton, based on his 1864 paper on aerial locomotion. Others who were previously thought to have been the first to introduce ailerons included American John J. Montgomery, including spring-loaded trailing edge flaps on his second glider in 1885. These were operatable by the pilot as ailerons. By his own account, changes, in addition to his use of an elevator for pitch control, provided entire control of the machine in the wind, preventing it from upsetting. New Zealander Richard Piers reputedly made a powered flight in a monoplane that included small ailerons as early as 1902, but his claims are controversial and sometimes inconsistent, and even by his own reports, his aircraft were not well controlled. In 1906, Alberto Santos-Dumont's 14 bis was one of the earliest engine-powered, aileron-equipped aircraft to fly. It was modified to have added octagonal planform interplane ailerons in its outermost wing bays. Those roll control surfaces were not true trailing edge ailerons hinged directly to the wing panels framework. For the 14 bis, these were instead pivoted around the horizontal axis centered on the forward outboard interplane struts, said to be very much like those on Robert Esnault-Peltier's 1904 biplane glider design. On May 18, 1908, engineer and aircraft designer Frederick Boulton, a member of the Aerial Experiment Association, headed by Alexander Graham Bell, flew their first aileron-controlled aircraft, the AEA White Wing. This was later copied by the US aeronautical pioneer Glenn Curtiss the same year with the AEA Junebug. Henry Farman's ailerons on his 1909 Farman III were the first to resemble ailerons on modern aircraft, as they were hinged directly to the wing planiform structure and thus were viewed as having a reasonable claim as the ancestor of the modern day aileron. Wingtip ailerons were also used on the contemporary Blériot 8, the first known flight-worthy aircraft to use the joystick and rudder bar, pioneering form of modern flight controls in a single airframe. The 1911 vintage Curtiss Model D pusher biplane had spanwise rectangular interplane ailerons of a similar nature to those on the final form of the Santos-Dumont 14 bis, but mounted on and pivoted from the outer rear interplane struts instead. Another very late contestant included the American William Whitney Christmas, who claimed to have invented the aileron in the 1914 patent for what would become the Christmas Bullet, was built in 1918. Both Bullet prototypes crashed during their first flight when their wings broke off in flight due to flutter as a result of being deliberately unbraced. Other 19th century engineer and scientists, including Charles Renaud, Alphonse Pénaud, and Louis Mouliard, had described similar flight control surfaces. What is described here reminds me of the quote, "Failure is an orphan, success has many fathers." Keep those responses coming into our videos. I do watch them. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to promote new content.